lace up those cleats and put on those mitts. It's time for another exciting edition of Our Little Yankees Podcast. Stepping up to the mic, it's the OLYP team.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome inside another exciting edition, episode 4 of Our Little Yankees Podcast. I am Julian, as always, for the 4th straight episode with a new background behind me, and get you all ready with my good pals, Josh Levin.
Hello.
And the one and only Eric Ray Sepulveda. And we're recording this on Tuesday, folks, which means he is not working overnights tonight.
What a day. I mean, this is groundbreaking, to be honest. A podcast on a Tuesday, not an overnight day. Right? I feel alive. You guys should feel alive, too.
Absolutely. I do. I've never felt more alive.
I agree. And you can hear it in the tones of their voice. We took a week off last week because obviously there were more pressing things happening than talking Yankees baseball. But because of the little bit of the layover, we decided to do the pod a little bit earlier in this week. So that way people can hear it on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of this week and get you set for all the good stuff and all the good festivities. And there's a lot of stuff I feel like that happened, at least in the echelons of Major League Baseball last week, guys. Obviously, there was some big news on the free agent front. There was some big news on the trade front. Right after we finished recording the podcast, we found out that J-Hap didn't get tenured, so that he's completely off the books, which we'll get to later when we do the pitchers. But I would say that where we should start, and obviously perhaps the biggest news for Yankees fans, is that a player who we have quested after, or hypothetically quested after over the last, I would guess, maybe year and a half, Francisco Lindor of the Cleveland Indians is officially on the market, according to sources who have spoken to the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, I think everyone probably saw this coming for over a year, because I think last offseason we had this, for this podcast, we had this discussion, just amongst ourselves. But this is what the Indians do. They traded Bauer, they traded Clevenger. It looks like Lindor's next. Years ago they traded CC. So This is just what they do. And I think everyone saw this coming. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But the question really is, who's going to be in and what is it going to take to get this guy? And, I guess that's kind of where the Yankees maybe come into it. And, I guess that's kind of what we are going to discuss, I guess, right now is, one, are they in? Well, they should be. And two, what would it take to get them? So I guess, that's kind of where the discussion starts.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let me first say, by the way, the Indians, I think, kind of have it down to a science, because they've been competitive in that division despite pretty much selling off the guys who are their best players right when they need to be sold off. I don't know. They probably, I guess, didn't, do that right when they made that big World Series run. But, you mentioned CC, and you're mentioning right now with Lindor and obviously with Bauer and Clevenger. But I wouldn't be surprised, and this obviously has nothing to do with the Yankees, but I would not be surprised if in 4 years they are once again the quote-unquote class of the American League Central, just because of how good they are at that. But I agree. That's where we kind of have to start. So I guess the question becomes, we've all kind of read articles this week. We've all kind of talked about the hypotheticals within our own circle off air. So I'll kind of start with you guys and throw this out there. What do you think it's going to take for the New York Yankees to get Francisco Lindor? We know they should be in on him. Gleyber Torres wasn't a good shortstop last year. Francisco Lindor is an excellent shortstop and a young, middle-of-the-lineup player who could, in theory, put this team finally on the cusp of winning World Series that they have not been able to get. So they should be in on him. What do you think it takes for them to get him?
Well, I mean, if you look at the past trades that the Indians have made, that I just mentioned before, those guys, if you look at, the return, they don't really go for the high-end prospect, so to speak. They don't necessarily always look to get, the top, Baseball America prospect from some team. What they do is they trade a guy for a bunch of other guys that will help them fill out their team over the next, 4 years or so. They did it with Clevenger. They did it with Bauer as well. It seems like what they prefer is they prefer, quantity over quality, so to speak. So they want a bunch of good, young, controllable players rather than, one really star-studded prospect and then a bunch of filler pieces to make up for it at the end. So if that's what if that's what they look to do, usually I would think that that's probably what they would be looking to do again with Lindor.
Yeah, really for me, I guess, of course, you should want Francisco Lindor. He's literally everything that you want in a ball player, especially for the Yankees. I mean, we were talking about how they're really righty base. He's a switch hitter. He plays shortstop. Glaber moved to second. But for me, it really comes down to, and I've been trying to think about this, I think the Yankees have the pieces to get Lindor. What Josh said, what the Indians would want for him. But really what it comes down to for me is whether if the Yankees do trade Lindor, it's not going to be for 1 year. You definitely have to extend them, you know what I mean? But also really comes down to either is it Francisco Lindor or do you want DJ LeMahieu? Because in an ideal world, we want both. We were talking about maybe trade possibilities, right? We sell high on Luke Voigt. We trade Luke Voigt to Cleveland, and then the ideal infield is DJ LeMahieu. You re-sign DJ LeMahieu, move him to first, Glaber Torres at second, Lindor at shortstop, and Urshela at third. I mean, that is a very appetizing, sexy infield. It's super sexy. It's very sexy.
Very turned on by it.
Very exactly, but. You know what? That's just a tease because it's not going to happen. It's either do you want LeMahieu or do you want Lindor? I don't think they get both. And I've really been deciding this whole week because, I mean, the biggest priority for the Yankees should be to sign DJ LeMahieu. Yeah. But now Lindor is available, it's like, okay, which one would you pick? And I'm battling with myself here because I like both.
Yeah.
Like, yes, DJ LeMahieu has been phenomenal for the Yankees. He's been everything we've asked for and more. He's, top 3 MVP race right now. He's done it in October. He's ready for it. He's built for New York, but he's older right now. Lindor is entering his prime. He's a switch hitter. He's Puerto Rican. That's better for me, but
for the record, let me just say and go on record and say this. It is annoying that as Yankee fans, you have to choose. Obviously, it feels like yes, COVID is obviously a big factor in revenue loss this year, but it feels like if this was last year when they shelled out a lot of big money for Garrett Cole, or 2 years ago when we all wanted them to sign Manny Machado and Bryce Harper, that they've just decided that, no, you're not getting both of these big guys. You're getting one or the other. If you want the big trade, we'll do the trade and the sign. Or none. But, it would be like, all right, you want DJ LeMahieu, then that's who you're getting. You're getting nobody else. Or you want Lindor, all right, then it's Lindor and some barrel bin guys, and that's it. And it's annoying that has to be it, especially when you see the Dodgers going out there and getting anybody they want.
Yeah.
And not really giving a crap whether or not, it affects their payroll.
I think everything we're reading is they're committed to being under the tax, and that's going to happen. But I asked you
Which
guys
is annoying, and I hate that, and I hated it 5 years ago or whenever it was, but I digress.
But I asked you guys though, like this question that I've been battling, like DJ LeMahieu or Lindor. What are you guys thinking? Like who, if you can't have both, of course we want both. Who would you guys rather prefer? Or it depends on a lot of situations, I guess. But
yeah, I think it's tough because we love DJ. He's been here for 2 years and he's been amazing. One of the best free agent signings they've ever had.
I agree.
But so it's a little tough because you have the emotional attachment to that. And this guy who kind of just came out of not nowhere, but he exceeded all expectations. So it makes it difficult to look at this objectively. But I think removing emotions from it, Lindor is the answer because he's younger. He's probably better in the long run. He probably fits a little bit better just because he's a switch hitter. And he also allows Glaber to move over to the position that he's actually better at defensively. But, I don't want to be in a position where I have to choose one. I want to be able to have both. And I think that, I don't think the Yankees should be forcing themselves to choose from two, out of two guys to only pick one of them. I just don't agree. But obviously we don't have the books, so we don't know what the finances are. So that's why it's,
Literally, Josh, this is just the 2020 version of why can't you have DJ LeMahieu and Manny Machado?
Yeah.
That's the only difference. Manny Machado was at third base, and now Francisco Lindor is going to be at shortstop. But the fact is, signing Manny Machado wasn't going to limit Gleyber Torres' ability to come up or play in the lineup, and getting Francisco Lindor isn't going to do that. And it's also, in theory, back when they would have done that, and obviously they had Troy Tulowitzki experiment that year, so nobody knew that DJ was going to be what DJ was. But if they had Manny Machado last year, it wouldn't have impacted DJ's ability to play on this team. And that to me is what's so annoying about it, to play off of what you're saying, because this is literally just the 2020 version of that. It is, you can only have one of these guys, even though they both fit, and we're 90% sure as fans that the Yankees are not going to have any wiggle room. I love DJ as a player, and here's the thing. Francisco Lindor could come to the New York Yankees and not be good, whereas DJ has been good for the 2 years that he's here, but you can't think of it like that. You guys made the point that makes sense, which is younger, more control if you sign him, switch hitter, allows Gleyber more flexibility on defense. Those four things right there, you knock all four of them, and that is the perfect example as to why you go and get this guy as opposed to not getting him.
But also, this is another point to bring up. It's sort of similar, to the Stanton situation. If the tax is going to be an issue going forward, is it wise to trade for Lindor and then pay him whatever it's going to, $25-30 million a year, when you have so many different things that need to be addressed, like the pitching staff, the starting pitching, and the bullpen? Both need to be, not overhauled completely, but definitely they need to make some changes, and it's probably going to cost them a lot of money. So is it wise to lock up another, $20-30 million a year player when that money could be divvied up to different pitchers and, another shortstop to come in and move Gleyber over to second if LeMahieu leaves? It stinks that we have to ask ourselves these questions when we're talking about the Yankees. This is, I don't want to start a Mets Yankees thing, but these are the types of things that the Mets fans were used to ask themselves, in the 2010s. Like, how are we going to spread the little money that we have to spend? How are we going to spread it around to three different guys to make the team better? In theory, you divvy up the money and you get three guys to fill your three holes rather than one. But in most of the cases, it's better if you have the best player possible, rather than, three guys who are just okay or decent at their jobs. And I don't like that we're in that position right now.
And sorry, Jules.
Well, all I was going to say, just to play off that point, is I would be okay with it if it was a one-time thing. Hey, COVID ruined our budget, and therefore this year we're a little bit hampered, so we're not going to be able to do it. But that's not what it is. It's been that for the last since 3 years ago. It was 2018 when they had the opportunity to sign Machado, and they had the opportunity to sign Harper, and even before that a little bit. So, but continue what you're saying, Ray.
No, I'm just saying, and this is also not just spending stupid money just to spend it. Yes, last year we got our big guy, we got our ace, we got Garrett Cole. They spent the most money ever on a pitcher to get that guy. But this is also just you shouldn't stop there. We've been saying it. This is also spending money to address needs. It's not in the past people have gotten us, Yankees spent all this money, but look at the Dodgers, man. They just won the World Series. They do, that organization has done what they haven't let anything stop them. You know what I mean? These are smart additions. Yeah. When you give a guy a contract, it might not work out. We've seen it happen, but it shouldn't stop you from doing it. And I don't know. It's just, I'll say this. We want both of them. We want one of them. If they get none of them, if DJ goes to I've been reading stuff about the Blue Jays or saw an article with the Mets and Red Sox. First of all, stop with that. Even the Blue Jays in our own division, if DJ LeMahieu goes somewhere else, and then we don't trade for Lindor or something like that, then that would be another story. But yeah.
If DJ leaves and he goes elsewhere without the Yankees, the reason isn't that the Yankees traded for Lindor. That's a bad sign for the organization and for the team. That is a bad sign for this offseason and probably for the 2021 season. This is not the time. Look, I get it, COVID, but this is not the time to be clutching at your purse strings when you have a roster that's in theory this close, or at least that's what they tell us, because when they lose in the playoffs, Aaron Boone says we're so close. So if you're that close, what are you doing? Just get the extra get the missing pieces and stop being close and just win. Yeah. It's very frustrating to hear this as a fan, because this team, the core in place is very good, and there are a few things that need to happen to make them great. And yes, Garrett Cole, okay, that was a no-brainer. Giancarlo Stanton, it's hard to say no to that. But I don't think that they've gone the extra mile the way that the Dodgers have done, and the Dodgers, they didn't even win it until this year. So this isn't to say that it's a guarantee that if the Yankees make all these moves, they're going to win, but it puts you in a better position.
Hey, the Dodgers still made the World Series.
Exactly. They kept winning the pennant, or at least getting far into the playoffs. The Yankees don't win the pennant. They make it to the ALCS.
They barely make it to Game 7 of the ALCS.
Exactly. This year they didn't even make it to the ALCS. Yep. So sometimes they have to even win a wild card game. It's just it's frustrating, and you can tell I'm getting angry. So I'm gonna
get angry. I will say
this: we have not had a big rant here, and the fact that the big rant came from Josh and not Mr. Rant himself,
E-Rant
is E-Rant.
I have 162 games. Don't worry.
Maybe. True, yes. So
we don't know if we have 162.
We don't. That's true. We don't. Yeah, but we don't want to proverbial blow your load this early. So
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Before we put this to bed, though, I want to run through a few, I guess, potential trades that I don't know. Maybe we could see the Yankees doing, and whether or not you guys would, in theory, be open to doing it. So let's put it out on the table that the Yankees will not trade either Gleyber Torres or Jason Dominguez in a deal. So I'm not gonna offer those two guys in any package. Let's say, for starters, though, that the Indians ask for a package, and I'm kind of just spitballing here, but has Domingo Germán, Clark Schmidt, and Miguel Andujar, and the Yankees' 4th overall prospect right now, according to Baseball America, which is Oswald Pereza. Would you do it?
Yeah, I would. Listen, I don't think any of those pieces are irreplaceable. Andujar doesn't really have a spot on the roster right now. 2020 showed you that. He spent a lot of the season at the alternate site, so I don't know what his future is. I don't really think Germán necessarily has to be here. And you guys know my feeling on prospects.
Yep.
I like prospects. They're fun to dream about and, fantasize about how great they could become. When you're a rebuilding team like this team was, in 2016, yes, I want prospects. I don't want to trade them. But when you're close to winning, prospects should not be what keeps you from winning. So
only the Martian is the only prospect.
That's what I was going to say.
Fantasize, because this kid is so hyped up that I want to see him in pinstripes. But other than that, I don't care.
That's what I was going to say is, there are certain cases where you just turn down the offer, if that's what it would take. I would think the Yankees would say no. I probably would too, even though we don't know anything about this guy. We've never really seen anything outside of some highlights and some workouts, but other than that, pretty much besides Dominguez and Torres, anything's on the table and I'll listen. That's how I feel about it.
Same sentiment, E-Ray?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, like Josh was saying, I think Jules, too. We're in it to win it right now. Prospects are great. Clark Schmidt is supposed to be really good, but we've seen young pitchers back in the mid-2000s. I mean, Phil Hughes he helped us win in 2009 and stuff, but Jabba Chamberlain, Ian Kennedy, Jabba Chamberlain's out of league. Ian Kenny got better as he went to, I think it was Arizona or something like that. But yeah, man, you do what it takes right now, and that trade package I would do.
Right.
Dominguez, I really don't think he's like Cashman's baby. I really don't think he's going anywhere right now.
Nor should he. I mean, I don't even think he's played organized A ball yet.
No,
so.
yeah, all we see is him seeing videos of like mashing baseballs. So the only guys I think you would trade, like, if it's like Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Jacob deGrom, you ship Dominguez, but other than that, no, he's staying here.
All right. So
anyone else on the table?
What if I substituted the prospects in Pereza and then I guess Clark Schmidt, and I said that the deal was Domingo Germán, Miguel Andujar, and Clint Frazier for Francisco Lindor?
Yeah, I would do that. We all like Frazier, but again, Lindor is better.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a move you make. And then you can find another left fielder by signing a left-handed hitter. I think
Michael Brantley.
Exactly. I think that's easy.
Same. Clint Frazier, we saw what he did this year. It was exciting, fun, quickest bat in the lineup. I would wish him the best wherever we would send him in Cleveland. He was sent originally from Cleveland, so he would just go back. But yeah, if Clint Frazier's in the deal, I would do it as well.
Yep, I agree. All right, the only other one is if it was that deal and you had to give up Devi Garcia, would you do it still?
That's would.
Schmidt, Germán, Frazier. No. Andujar, Germán, Frazier, Devi.
Yeah, I would do it. And the reason why is because, it's sort of the same points that I've been making. But honestly, if the Yankees keep Garcia and Schmidt and they don't trade them for Lindor or for somebody else this offseason, those two guys are going to be relied upon a lot in 2021 because they're cheap and they're young, and it's an easy way out for the Yankees to sign an expensive veteran. Yeah. Do I really want to rely on two rookies in the rotation in 2021 when this is a team that should be going for it all?
I mean, they didn't even rely on that rookie to pitch in the division series.
True.
You make a good point. But anyway, yeah, you're right. And that kind of, goes along with what I'm saying. I don't want to deal with the growing pains of two young guys when it's not a rebuilding team or a team on the rise. This is a team that already rose. So
yes,
for me, it's easy for me because I don't want to deal with that. I want sure things. We love Davey. We liked what we saw from him this year, and we wish he pitched more in the playoffs, more than an inning. But it's Francisco Lindor that we're talking about. And again, I would rather plug the pitching holes with proven veterans who I know what I'm getting out of, because time and time again, pitching has been an issue, and it has to stop being an issue.
Yeah, I agree.
You see, I do agree with Josh, but I'm a little on the fence for that one. But then that's an actually, because that's a lot. And I know this is hypotheticals because we were talking about it before. The Indians probably wouldn't even ask for that much. But if they did.
But here's the thing. None of those guys are I think that is probably closer to what they might ask for, because none of those guys are Gleyber Torres or Jason Dominguez. But those are guys who have either performed in the major leagues or are former top prospects.
That's true.
Devi is not is obviously not the greatest pitching prospect in baseball, but he's pitched in the major leagues, and a lot of people would have him. Frazier isn't our top prospect anymore, but the Indians are familiar with him. And Andujar, I guess, has minimal trade value, and same with Germán because of the off the field stuff. But those are two, high quality, pitchers. So it's. I think realistically speaking, if you were to get a larger scale package, that might be a package that, at least in my opinion, would actually fit the mold to what the Indians would want, because you're not giving up Gleyber, you're not giving up Jason Dominguez, and they're still getting a lot of value back. I would still do it, by the way, but I'm just saying I think that fits the mold.
In the end, I probably, like I said, I'm hesitant, and they would definitely need to, resign Lindor, extend them to whatever contract. First of all, Cashman wouldn't give all that away. In reality, Cashman would probably take the risk of just not going after Lindor because you know how he loves his prospects. And then if he's out there as a free agent, either doing that and keeping his prospects, but that's not the question right now. But yeah, I guess that's hard. I guess I'll do it because, man, I'm hungry. I'm hungry for a championship. I just want one, and that helps us right now. We've made jokes about saying F the prospects in a way, but kind of sometimes we want to win now, and Lindor helps us now. But I'm hesitant about that. I am hesitant about that because I do think they're going to be good, but who knows? It's a crapshoot, right? You don't know if these guys are going to actually be good.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wouldn't trade Schmidt and Garcia in the same trade. Probably wouldn't even trade both of them in the same offseason, but one of them,
especially if it's Armand as the other pitcher. It's good, but I mean,
I mean, like I said, it's just, do I want to deal with two rookie pitchers for an entire season in a year that they're supposed to be trying to go for a championship? And the answer is no. So if Lindor is a possibility and one of those guys has to go to make that happen, then I mean, I think it makes sense to do.
But this is another question, Josh. Like, say, because I think his original, if it was one or two of them, the Yankees would. We're saying they hopefully would sign like a Charlie Morton or something. But if they got rid of that young pitching that they would have this year and sign like even worse pitching, like I don't even know. I saw like a rumor about like Garrett Richards or something like that. Like I don't know if I would want that or something like that. But it all depends, man. Yeah.
We will be getting to keep them or trash them with the pitchers later on. So I don't want to get into Yankees pitching options just too much. But
that is true.
Your point.
We're E-Ray, you're right, because Charlie Morton is somebody that I'm going to talk about later. Though we're all going to talk about later. So we're thinking like, oh yeah, just trade these guys and get Lindor and then sign Morton and you're good. And that's obviously not realistic. But we're just talking in hypotheticals.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and that is realistic because of the Yankees, but
it should be realistic, but it's probably not going to end up being realistic. But my point is just that yes, we're talking in hypotheticals, and like these are things that we would like to see happen or think would be best. But at the end of the day, I think we all could say none of this is probably not happening. They're not trading for Lindor, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're probably not going to sign Charlie Morton, and they're going to have.
Hopefully,
Schmidt
if they don't do those two things, they sign DJ.
That is the one thing, and they'll probably have Schmidt and Garcia in their rotation when the season starts, and we'll see how it goes.
Honestly, if they did all these things, we probably wouldn't have a podcast to talk about because
we would, but it'd be a lot more chipper than what it usually is. So we haven't really gotten the full blow ups because of how far removed we are from their epic meltdown in the division series. My last point on this is, in a world where they most likely obviously do not get Lindor, do you go and find somebody who you're familiar with, like a Didi Gregorius, to come in and get those reps at shortstop and get some lefty bat action and, do that sort of thing, which has obviously been a rumor based on the fact that he didn't even get a qualifying offer from the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. But if LeMahieu is here, then where is that guy playing?
That's true.
Because Glaber, if DJ is playing second, Glaber's playing short, and there's no debate about that. So yeah, I mean, look, we all seem to agree that they should probably have a different shortstop, but we also all agree that they should bring LeMahieu back. So that kind of makes the first part impossible.
The only thing is if they do get rid of Voit for something and then move DJ to first base.
Right. And so far there have been no indications that they're doing that would happen, or that they're trading anybody, any starter, I should say. There's been no indication that anybody is, on the block. So unless something happens out of nowhere that we don't foresee, or things change over the next few weeks, then I mean, we're talking about something that isn't going to happen. So, but Didi did say a couple of weeks ago, I think on WFAN, that he doesn't think the Yankee reunion would happen. He basically made it seem like the Yankees were kind of done with him. And I read some articles from, I think Joel Sherman said that the Yankees didn't like his defense anymore, and they were just ready to move on to somebody else. So, I mean, the fans love him, but I don't think happening.
It doesn't always count for a lot. I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. E-Ray, you have anything else to say before I put this to bed and transition us to the next segment?
No, I think that's it. They
And
better.
a few words.
My last thing, actually, now I'm thinking now. You know me, it takes a while for the hamster in my brain to get on his little, what is it called? Wheel.
A wheel.
See? There we go.
Wasn't that
it.
hard? It was pretty easy, actually.
I'm just gonna say, like, if the Yankees do sign LeMahieu and don't get Lindor, it's not like I'm gonna be happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like
That's the bare minimum that they have to do.
One of the two I'm going to be happy about. Now, if it's none of them, and I do think LeMahieu's probably going to, like, free agents are going to sign first because the Indians have all the offseason to trade Lindor. Yeah. It seems like they're going to do it in the offseason. But maybe if they don't want someone, like if they don't think they're getting like the proper value, I guess they could wait
wait till the trade deadline.
Yeah, they could, but they better sign
obviously, with him healthy, the values probably would assume, be at the highest in the offseason as opposed to if something happens during the year.
That's all I got, though. They better sign one. Sign one or trade for one.
We always appreciate your input here. Moving on now, we've been doing Take 'em or Trash 'em the last couple of podcast episodes. We took and trashed the infield. We took and trashed the outfield. And now finally, after much, much anticipation, we are taking and trashing the pitching staff and the bullpen. E-Ray doesn't have to work overnight, so therefore we don't have to worry about going long. And obviously there are a lot of pitchers that we're going to have to talk about. We're not going to talk about every single pitcher that was on this roster here, but we obviously have the rotation guys. We obviously have what constitutes the bullpen. You know, there's some guys on there who, you know, are trash-ems because they're nobodies, but, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, the big name guys and even some big name guys who did not pitch this year are going to be discussed. So without further ado, let's jump back into it for the Take 'em and Trash 'em. We don't need to discuss Garrett Cole because he is he's the ace, he is the guy. So I'm not even going to bother with the formality of take or trash him for Garrett Cole. The only thing for him is I would love to see less home runs this upcoming year, but, you know, that's just me nitpicking because ultimately he was, I think you could argue, the best pitcher in the American League for a better part of at least the second half of the season. If not, you know, you can make the case throughout the entirety of the year. So the next pitcher is one that is a free agent. So it is pressing. Masira Tanaka, he is going to be a free agent now going into this offseason. Yankees could sign him or they could not. He's been a very, very good pitcher for the Yankees, though I feel like this last year we all would agree he kind of fell off a little bit. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, E-Ray, this is your guy, so I think you should take it away.
Yeah, Tanaka, man.
That's true. I won't sing it here, but I made a little song about him a couple of days ago. But yeah,
did
man,
you?
I did.
Yeah, he did.
You got to sing it. Come on.
No, he can't. He can't.
I actually can't sing it here.
Oh.
I can't. That is for my OnlyFans.
All right. Do you have an OnlyFans?
No, but no I'm kidding. No, if you want to hear the song, you got to go to my OnlyFans.
But do you actually have one?
I do not. I do not have one.
So then you got to set one up so that way the fans can go to your OnlyFans
and it's just
hear the
me
song.
Singing about Masahiro Tanaka. Me, yeah, I love this guy, man. I want him back. Yeah, he struggled this season. He struggled in the playoffs, really for the first time that we've seen him struggle. He's really been our ace before we got Garrett Cole. He's been our guy every October. But yeah, I would still bring him back to be right behind Garrett Cole. Maybe, of course, I would want Trevor Bauer, all these other guys, but yeah, still to be a part of that rotation, I still think Tanaka's still a solid pitcher. What is he, 32 still? Hopefully, I don't know if he would take a friendly deal. Who knows what these guys would take? I don't know how much it would take to get him, but yeah, the quick answer is I want him back.
Yeah, I want him back as well. But I think I don't want him to be the number 2 starter. And he's going to have to take a pay cut. Even if there wasn't the pandemic, the performance that he's given, while good, has not been up to the value of his contract. So if he's going to come back, he needs to take a team friendly deal. And this feels to me sort of something like he's more valuable to the Yankees than to any other team.
Yeah.
And I don't see another team, I don't think another team is going to say, oh, Tanaka's a free agent. Let's blow the Yankees out of the water and sign him, and we'll give him 20 a year, which is what he, roughly what he had been making before. This seems to me something sort of like this guy should be making 9 or 10 million a year, which is more than half of what he was making before. So it's going to take for him a little bit of, I guess he's gonna have to swallow his pride a little bit, but for me, bring him back, but the price has to be right.
I agree. I want him back too. The only teams that I feel like are the ones that you kind of always see him play for these pitchers that always leave the Yankees. I mean, teams like the Angels who might need, in a pinch starter or a younger team out there who has some money to throw around and wants some guy on their staff. But other than that, I kind of agree with you that, I don't know, this seems like a match made in heaven. I mean, I would be bummed if rather than going and getting Charlie Morton, like Tampa came out and threw some money at him. That would really, I think, piss me off. But outside of that, I mean, the Yankees should and have the money to sign him to a team-friendly deal if he wants to stay here. And I don't know, he seemed emotional towards the end of the year and talked about, obviously, his love for the organization and, he's friends with everybody here. There was that photo of him and his wife going out with Garrett Cole and Garrett Cole's wife. And I don't know, he is honestly, if you think about it, one of the truest representatives of the franchise right now.
Yeah.
You think of the Yankees, you think of at least this current core. Tanaka has been there. My only concern, and this plays into what you talked about, Josh, is every year it kind of seemed like Tanaka would have iffy regular seasons where he would be great and then have those terrible stretches, always gives up the obligatory home run, but in the playoffs he turned it on. And at first with that rainy game in Cleveland, it just kind of seemed like he was a victim of circumstance. But in the game then against Tampa, he was kind of equally as lost there on the mound. And there was also a game in the series against the Astros where they lost, where he pitched a second time in that series and he was not as crisp. So his last 3 starts in the playoffs have not been what we have been accustomed to over the first stretch of time in which he pitched exceptionally well as a Yankee. So from that standpoint, I want him to be essentially what J Happ was this year for them. Yeah,
I think the mistake would be them bringing him back and saying, okay, this is our number 2 starter. Because for one thing, he always seems to have a little bit of an injury issue. Yeah. And then in the playoffs, we now can't just say like, oh, this guy's going to pitch great. His stuff has diminished. He's in his 30s. He pitched a lot of innings in Japan before he came here. Yeah. And he's been very reliable since he arrived with the Yankees. But he's dealing with what every other pitcher deals with as he ages. His stuff has diminished. He doesn't have the same stuff that he did when he first got here, and that's an issue for him. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, Jules, we can't just pencil him in anymore and think like, okay, this is our guy in the playoffs. He's not that anymore, but he still has a place here.
All right. The next person is somebody who did not pitch this past year, Luis Severino. He's on the team next year. Whether or not he is on the team for a half the season, if we're lucky because of the Tommy John timetable, or whether he's good or not, is obviously something we have yet to be seen. But my question becomes, what would you need to see from Sevy next year in order for you not to trash him?
I think he has to pitch like what he was before basically the last couple seasons that have been lost to injury. I mean, he's still young. What is he? He's 26, 27. He's going to be 27 next year, I think. So he's still
26, yeah.
He's still young, and it's not like this guy is the story is written. He's still important because they've signed him to an extension, so he's here for a little while. And yeah, he's one of the most talented pitchers they have. He's probably the most talented pitcher they have besides Cole. So he's important. I don't think there's anything that I would say like, oh, I got to get rid of this guy. Even if he comes back and doesn't pitch, even if he doesn't pitch that well when he comes back, I'll just blame it on the injury, you know? So yeah.
And there have been instances of guys coming back. Look at Zach Wheeler and how good he was after a year, and then what he did in Philly this past year. Right.
That happens all the time. And listen, come July or June, whenever he comes back, you know what is going to happen. Brian Cashman is going to sit at a podium and say, oh, Luis Severino's coming back, and putting him into our rotation in the middle of the season is just like trading for an elite starting pitcher. So that's what he has to be.
It's already infuriating me just coming out of your mouth.
You already know that that's what they're going to do. So he has to be that, you know, whether he will be or not is up to anyone to guess. But yeah, I mean, this guy's going to be relied upon big time for sure. You can bet money on that right now.
You ready?
Yeah, I mean, Josh really hammered it down. I mean,
all right,
what I want to see.
Shut up. No.
What I want to see is just him staying healthy, man. I mean, I want to see the dominant pitcher he was in 2017, 2018 when he won 19 games. Yeah, there were some bad postseason starts, but then he had that great one against Minnesota last year in the ALDS. He's young. He shows flashes of dominance. He can be that elite guy. That's all I really want to see. I just want him to stay on the field. Yeah. Because if he's this is like whether you plug in Severino's name, Stanton's name, Judge's name, this is just our team when we talk about them. Just stay on the field, stay healthy, and hopefully, I mean, we can see what goes on after that. But
it's weird to think just how dominant he was in 2017. I think he finished like third in the Cy Young voting that year.
Yeah.
And the first half of 2018, he probably was the Cy Young favorite other than maybe Chris Sale. And then obviously everything that happened with the injuries, and he just kind of, fell off a little bit from there. So we'll have to see what kind of happens with him. The other guy who kind of, I guess the best way to put it is put the Yankees in a pickle at the end of 2019 after pitching almost as good as Severino had pitched when Severino was there, was Domingo Germán. We all know what happened, so we're not here to talk about that. The question becomes, coming into this year, do you take him or do you trash him? And by trash him, you look to give him an outlet to pitch somewhere else.
For me, this is a guy that I would probably try to move on from. I don't know what his value would be on a trade market because he didn't pitch in 2020 and, he has the off the field problems. But he's solid. He's not gonna wow you. He's not gonna be an all-star, he does have value. He's not a schlep. But I feel like based on what happened at the end of 2019, this isn't somebody that I want to rely on.
Yeah.
What he did, we don't have to discuss it, like you said, but when you add into the fact of what he does for a living and then what he did in his personal life and how that affected his job and the entire group of people that he works with, for me, that's not somebody that I want to count on. So Hal Steinbrenner said it at the end of the season. He said, I have to talk to this guy and see where he is and see how much he's changed. Mm-hmm. If they don't have an indication that this guy has grown up and learned from his mistakes, then they should move on from him either by trading him or just whatever it takes to move on.
Him.
Yeah.
And we saw that, what was it, that Insta story or something?
Where he had retired or whatever.
Yeah, where he retired. So yeah, his head's all over the place, his allegations, like you said. But I'm going to give an opposite tune. I don't want to rely on the guy. Like, yes, if he's a guy that you need to rely on and he needs to pitch every 4 or 5 days. But if we have our pitching staff set in stone and he's like a 6th guy, 7th guy even, that's there, I'm okay with keeping him. Again, this is separate from his off-the-field allegations, the type of person he is. I'm just talking him as a baseball guy, baseball pitcher. yes, we don't know his value, but I'm still not ready to give up on what he can do on the mound, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
So I think me personally, if he's not like the number 4 guy, number 3, 5 pitcher, if he is, that's a problem. But yeah, if I think I keep him, I still want to see, again, hopefully he has grown from this, or again, we don't have to talk about the stuff he did, but yeah, I would keep him.
I'm trashing him. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what you do, your off the field issues play into who you are on the field. And like what Josh said, think of when CC had the issues with alcoholism. You know, he took it upon himself to notify the team and let them, you know, be a part of, you know, this sort of moment in his life, and understood going in that was going to impact his job, especially right before the Yankees were, if I'm not mistaken, going into the playoffs that year.
Yep.
And that's who CC is. That's the type of guy that he was. I look at the way kind of Herman has gone about this situation, and whether it's the situation itself, which is obviously what it is, and him and his dealing with it and results to the team. And I just say to myself, you have Devi Garcia, you have Clark Schmidt, you have Jordan Montgomery, you have money to sign somebody like Charlie Morton or Masira Tanaka. You have the potential of Sevy coming back in the middle of the year. You have Garrett Cole. You have a guy like Abreu who you don't know what he might be, but his stuff might be as good as a Domingo Ramon. For a guy who did not pitch all last year, has those off the field issues, and he was not amazing, I feel like, at the end of 2018, even though he was very good in 2019. That's just not worth the headache.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of feel the same way that I think I feel like a mix of what you two feel. Because E-Ray, I agree, like as a back end guy, this isn't a terrible pitcher to have.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like the pickle he put them in at the end of 2019, he was going to be important for them. In
Odds
a
are he
playoff
starts
series.
a playoff game, and he was good.
Yeah,
enough
he would have, and even if he didn't start, he would have been used in the bullpen. So yeah,
Think of how bad the bullpen was beaten by the Astros.
Exactly.
No,
so
he screwed us. He definitely did screw us.
He screwed himself and he screwed the team, and that's, to me, is an issue.
Yeah,
I agree. Moving on, one of the guys that I did mention there who was on the team this year is a lefty. Obviously, we all like to think of him as a key member of the rotation. Jordan Montgomery is one of the few lefties that they actually have in the rotation. He was hit or miss, I feel like, this year. When his stuff was on, it was really good. I know a lot of people kind of said like a mini Andy Pettitte. Obviously doesn't have the accolades or the major league, career that Andy Pettitte had, or even the major league success early on. But he was good enough in games where they needed him. Can't really say the same in every single game, though. He was good in the playoffs for them when they needed him, and he put on that clinic with Higgy as well. I think all of us are going to say keep him because you need the lefty, but let's just kind of hear the reasoning why.
Yeah, I think you keep him. I mean, he had Tommy John and then came back in 2019 and pitched 2 games, only 4 innings. So this year was sort of his first. You can't even say it was a full season, but it was his first full season back from the injury. He didn't pitch spectacularly. I mean, he had a 5 ERA. But there's enough there where you say to yourself, this guy can be a part of the rotation going forward. He's going to be 28 next season, or he already is 28. But either way, he's entering his prime years, and he's under team control. So yeah, I think this is an easy keep.
Yeah, this is not a guy that you give up on. Like you said, he won that playoff game, game 4. He did what he had to do. He showed confidence on the mound. He got out of, I think, game 4. Yeah, he got into a couple jams, but one
of them was a big one where he had like 4 or 5 straight balls in the dirt that Higashioka stopped behind the plate.
Oh yeah, I was doing well
Sanchez
during that.
Let go past him, but that's besides the point.
And then I think he also pitched the game against the Blue Jays where he let out didn't the Blue Jays score like 10 runs in that one inning or something like that? That was another game. So when he's been good, he's been good. But when he's been bad, he's been bad.
Oh, that was against the Rays. It was the day after the Chapman-Brosseau thing.
You're right. That was a disaster in its own.
Yep.
But yeah, either way, you don't give up on this type of guy.
I agree.
You don't. So I keep him.
I agree 100%. Rounding out the rotation, the two names that I'm going to give you are the two guys who are kind of the up-and-comers here. So we can kind of lump them into one because ultimately these two guys are going to be the young prospects and might have the opportunity to pitch this year. It's Devi Garcia and that's Clarke Schmidt. We already know what Devi Garcia is, and we know what he could be. He was a stopper for a lot of the second half, especially when the Yankees need some big wins. They didn't trust him enough. They trusted Jay Happ, who is long gone, thank heavens. And Clarke Schmidt had that really awesome summer training sort of warm-up where we saw him strike out a bunch of guys, and then Boone put him in the most bonehead situation ever where he got screwed. And then obviously I think he pitched maybe one more time the rest of the year, maybe twice. But these are the young guys. These are the guys who they're going to rely on the rotation. What do you think of the two of them getting starting spots next year? Do you take that idea or do you trash that idea?
I kind of spoiled this before. I don't really want to live with the growing pains, as I said already. I'm not interested in it. I'm totally okay with them being a part of the 2021 team if a trade for an elite player is impossible. Yeah. I'm okay with one of them being in the rotation. I'm okay with both of them being in the rotation if there's injuries to other guys. But I don't want to enter the season with Garcia and Schmidt as your 4 and 5, and you have to just live with them learning how to be big leaguers. I don't want that, and so in that sense, that's a trash, I guess. But I don't want to. Obviously, I'm not trashing these kids. These kids have futures.
We would rather have.
I'm trashing Charlie the idea
Morton than Clarke Schmidt in the rotation. I don't think
I'm trashing the idea. I'm trashing the idea of the two of them being in the rotation at the same time. That isn't injury related.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm with Josh. I think if I had to pick the two, I think Devi Garcia definitely would deserve more of a shot to be in that starting rotation next year. I mean, he only pitched one inning in the division series. He should have, but before that, in the regular season, he's shown that he has the demeanor on the mound. He has that swag. His fastball is like very. He hides his fastball really well. I think he only throws like 92, 93, but it looks like it's 95, 96. He has good stuff. And with Clarke Schmidt, I think that decision by Aaron Boone, I mean, for his debut was quite. I mean,
something. That decision rivals having Devi Garcia pitch one inning.
Yeah, you're right.
Kind of had a terrible head scratcher decision with both of his star pitching prospects.
I think Schmidt needs a full spring training, and I'd rather see him in AAA to start the year. He definitely, I think, needs more work in that regard. But I definitely would want to see one of them in the rotation. If they're the number 4, number 5 guys. I mean, if we're talking about, Garrett Cole and then Montgomery and then Garcia, Schmidt, and some other guy that they signed this year that's not Tanaka or Morton, it's like in that 3 to 4, number range, then we got a big problem.
Yeah.
But I would definitely like to see one of them in the rotation. And then, like Josh said, if injuries happen, which they're going to happen, they're the New York Yankees, and it happens every year. And this is the type of team they have. So get ready because it's happening. But I would see one of them in the rotation.
You also have to remember with Schmidt, he pitched in AA. He pitched 3 times.
Yeah.
And he never pitched in AAA. He came up here. The only reason he probably was even able to debut in 2020 was because of the virus.
Yeah.
Honestly, because he probably would have been spending the entire season in the minors. At least he maybe would have been a September call up. But I mean, this guy still needs seasoning, and he's 24 years old. So
that's the point I was going to make. Devi Garcia has earned a rotation spot, in my opinion.
I agree.
He should pitch next year. Obviously, he should not be the number 3 starter. And in the ideal world, I think all 3 of us would be happy if Garrett Cole was your ace, Charlie Morton was your 2, Masira Tanaka maybe was your 3, or somebody else was your 3, And then you rounded out the rotation with a combination of a Jordan Montgomery, and then 5 is Devi Garcia. But he should pitch every 5th day. I think he earned it. And it really bummed me, just as it bummed you guys, that you didn't see him almost have sort of that Michael Wacha moment from the Cardinals back when he debuted, where he goes out there and he pitches 5-6 shutout innings or 5-6 good innings in the playoffs. And you're like, geez, this kid's good. This kid's having his major league moment. Yeah. So it bums me that that never happened. And obviously Boone is to blame for that. But I think based off of the way that he pitched near the end of last season and the fact that now he has started major league games, he deserves that spot. Whereas Clark Schmidt, as you pointed out, Josh, and as E-Ray pointed out, he needs more finishing. He needs to go to AAA and get starts there. He needs to have the opportunity to start every 5th day. He needs to showcase himself in spring training and then get those reps. And then after that, later on in the year, when injuries happen, or if Sevy comes back and he can't start every single 5th day because they're still working him in those sort of scenarios, then I think that that's something that the Yankees can kind of deal with. Anyway.
Yeah, but I think that sums it up great.
Yep, I agree. So that's the starting rotation. This is what I'm going to do with the bullpen, and this is what I'm going to do with the rest of the pitchers. We're going to focus on the big bullpen guys. I'm not going to tell you, whether or not we think that Ben Heller should be take him or trash him. That will be like a 5-second take this guy or trash this guy and move on with it. But we will start with the big names, and the biggest name is Aroldis Chapman. He's been a electric closer. E-Ray hates his guts, but
I don't hate him.
Yeah, you do. He's been on the bad end of now at least 3 big-time blown games when the Yankees have really needed him not to blown games. So take him, trash him. Do you keep Aroldis Chapman around, or do you find somebody to take him off your hands?
You're right. You have to take this one first.
Nope. He's at a loss for words.
Did we lose him?
We might have lost him a little bit.
You're right. You there? All right. Well, I'll go, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So this is weird because he's so elite, but he always seems to blow big games. And it's not just the 2 most recent ones that we remember from 19 and 20.
Yeah.
He was not great in the Cubs World Series in 2016 in Game 7. I don't know if the pressure is too much for him, or maybe.
I mean, look at that big home run he gave up against Devers when the pressure was on it right there.
That's true.
I mean, that's one that's not forgotten because it was a regular season, or it is forgotten because it was a regular season home run. But
yeah, but maybe it could just be bad luck. It's just like unfortunate. He doesn't really blow games often, but when he does, it comes in the worst moments, and that's just bad luck. So, I mean, okay. So the way I look at it is, I don't really want to spend $15 or $16 million a year on relief pitchers anymore. I just don't really think that's a good use of money, especially if you're trying to, pay attention and be conscious of the luxury tax. So in that sense, I don't want that. So I guess trash, but nobody's going to trade for that, I don't think. And it's not like they're going to do anything. They're not going to get rid of them. So that's your closer, and you live with it, and you move forward and hope that the next time he comes out of it successfully.
All right, we'll see if E-Ray gave me the thumbs up on his Zoom, so we'll see whether
you
or
hear
not
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You're back.
We had some technical difficulties, but E-Ray is back on audio.
Did you go to me before?
We did.
I tried to let you start.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I wanted to start. You see, the anger I have for Chapman, I guess, destroyed.
And you wanted to say you didn't like it, or you liked him, but
you see, that's what happened too. I liked him, and the headset knew I lied, so I couldn't hear you guys. But anyway, I couldn't also hear anything you guys said. But back to Chapman. Honestly, man, he's still one of the best top 5 closers in the game. So yeah, I would keep him in that sense, but where I would trash him is that how many times is this guy going to do this? And it's kind of, it was with Altuve, that's fine. And then this year with Broussard, I can't say his name now. But you guys know what I mean. So in that sense, I am like, I want to move on. Maybe Zac Britton could be the closer. Am I done with Chapman? I wasn't even that angry this year. I kind of felt it coming. Like I was numb to it because I guess that's what Chapman has been in these 10 moments at the end of the year.
In my opinion, between the Altuve one, which was LeMahieu had just done that, and then Altuve hit it out of the park, as opposed to this one, which was like the Yankees did not hit all game.
So you knew they were going to blow it.
I'm just saying the anger that you may have felt with him after he blown it versus Altuve would not be the same anger this year, because all the anger this year falls on their inability to hit.
Yeah. That's
it's
true.
not Chapman's fault they lost that game. Was he the direct reason as to why they lost? Yeah, because he gave up the home run to Brousseau. But he was not the reason they did not get hits. He was not the reason Mike Ford batted when he shouldn't have been batting. So I kind of stand with that. I agree with Josh's point, and E-Ray, you might not have heard this, but he's done paying $15 million a year for relievers. And I think Tampa, even though Nick Anderson blew up in the World Series, has proven that you can just develop really, really hard throwing guys with good stuff. And maybe they don't have the excitement of building that with a starting pitcher and putting that guy into the rotation. But how many times with a guy like Jabba did we see really good bullpen pieces, and then the Yankees meshed them around a little bit too much because they wanted to turn them into starters? Like, you can turn these guys into shut down bullpen pieces and then just load out your bullpen that way if that's what you want to do. So that, to me, is something that I would be very, very down for. But also, I think it's important to remember, and we've talked about this on the podcast, he is not Mo. We are used to Mariano Rivera. Mariano Rivera barely blew games. So anytime this guy blows a big game, especially in the playoffs, it's easy to just kind of to forget to put it in that context of just how dominant our closer was for so many years, and the fact that, like, guys that are not Mariano Rivera blow games probably a lot more than we expect them to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
the name of the game with relievers, just how it goes.
Yep. Anyway, the other guy that you brought up, E-Ray, was Zac Britton. So this is sort of, I guess, a hand-in-hand question. You can obviously keep them both, and the Yankees picked up Britton's option, so he is on the team, and so is Aroldis Chapman. But the option also could be, if you decide to trash Chapman and keep Britton, would that be something you'd be interested in? Make Britton the closer instead.
I kind of agree with what E-Ray was saying before. Even if Chapman is on, if they're both on the team, which they will be, maybe you flip them and you try something different. I don't know. I don't know. I'm open to trying new things, I don't,
maybe even a
like,
leverage situation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't feel like we have to do this where it's like, okay, Chapman's the 9th and Britton's the 8th and Green's the 7th. I just don't think that has to be the way it's done anymore. It's proven throughout baseball across the league that you can just have your guy pitch when it's time for him to pitch. But if the Yankees want to subscribe to we need a closer, we need a setup guy, I am willing to test this out and have Britton be the closer and have Chapman be the 8th.
He was good this year.
Yeah, I don't know if it will change anything, but it's worth a chance, right?
Yeah.
And
statistically, I think Britton's best year, that insane year that he had, was probably better than any individual year that Aroldis Chapman.
Oh,
and the best Britton has pitched as a Yankee was in 2020 when he was the closer for the beginning of the season. That was his best as a Yankee, in my opinion. So take that for what it's worth.
No, and I was gonna say, I mean, we've had our issues with Zac Britton as well in the past, where Zac Britton would come into situations where he would not be able to throw a strike, or he would start the same thing with Chapman, where it would just feel like he was like nibbling around the plate a lot, and he would walk guys, lead off batters. But Britton really, like Josh said, this year to start off this season, 2020, he was dominant, and he was dominant in the playoffs. He
He did everything you want him to do, and I would definitely entertain that thought as well. Just if both of them are going to be on the team, like Chapman's not going anywhere. So I would definitely entertain that. But I don't think they will. I think Chapman's going to stay the closer. I mean, we saw back in 2018, though, when Chapman was – I think it was 2018 when I think that was the year he was struggling, or maybe 2017. I forgot which year it was specifically. But when Chapman was struggling late in that year, and they did pull him. They took him out of the closer spot.
Yeah.
I forgot what year it was. And then they put him in like the 7th inning, 8th inning, and then he finally got better, and then he was finally a closer going into the playoffs. But yeah, I'm anything that can help them, I'm down for.
I agree. The next guy that I want Josh to start with on this one, because I think we might get a nice juicy rant, is Adam Ottavino. Take or trash?
Yeah, goodbye. Listen, I was very happy when they signed him. I really liked it. I was very excited about it. And for the beginning of 2019, he proved the excitement to be worthwhile. He was. But it's over. I mean, he can't pitch anymore. They did not want him pitching in the playoffs in any big situation. It was sort of like Betances in 2017. But in this case, I don't think that there's a turnaround coming. So for me, if you find a team that is interested in, the chance at a once great reliever turning it around again, then you let him go and you trade him and you take that salary relief, because that's $9 million that can go elsewhere.
I agree.
You want to talk about using a lot of money on relievers. This guy, while he doesn't make as much as Chapman or Britton, $9 million for this guy with what he gave you as a Yankee in his 2 seasons, bad, not worth it. And that's $9 million that could go to Tanaka. That's $9 million that could go towards Charlie Morton or somebody else. So yeah, I mean, goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, literally a year and a half of his tenure was terrible. If you paid the $9 million for that first half of 2019, you say it's worth it. But I mean, you literally cannot get guys out.
Yeah, they don't want him pitching against any lefties, so that makes it even harder, because then he's got to come in against all righties.
And literally with the rules now, it's impossible.
Exactly.
Especially he was unusable against Kevin Cash because they were going to just
pinch hit.
And mess around him, and their bench was deep enough. So he was literally unplayable.
And you can't have that on your team for $9 million. With Betances, you could live with it because it was before he had reached free agency. He wasn't costing you a lot, and he had shown elite dominance, not something that Ottavino has shown at the same consistency. So this is, for me, an untenable situation, and they need to move on from each other.
He's done. You remember when I was driving Mike Ford to the airport, to the trash disposal. I don't even know. Adam Ottavino, you're putting Adam Ottavino in the same car. You're shipping him out. Again, I was excited like Josh when we first got him, but it's not a ludicrous contract, but because it's only $27 million, but $9 million for a reliever is pretty high. But this probably is one of the most recent awful contracts for the Yankees in the last 5 years. It has been a utter disaster. Like you said, they didn't want him pitching to left-handers. They didn't even want him pitching in general. I mean, he didn't even – Aaron Boone shied away from him. And then even last year where there were in the Astros series where in the ALCS, he would come in for one batter, and that would be it as well. And there would be times where it's wait, he actually got the batter out. Why is he not pitching? It's always seemed like a disconnect between whether it be Aaron Boone or Ottavino, and then Ottavino just didn't pitch well. It's just his time is up here. It's kind of like the Sonny Gray situation. You know what I mean? Ottavino will probably do well somewhere else, but it's done here.
Look no further than the game against Toronto in the regular season. That was the implosion of his Yankee career.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the worst things ever. Inning? I'm looking at it right now. They scored 10 runs in that inning, I think, maybe 12 actually, but he gave up 6 and didn't get an out.
And he wasn't even close to the plate, and that was it. And that's all you need to know.
He didn't get an out.
Face. I actually felt. I think I felt bad for the guy, and I usually don't feel bad for these guys that just suck. When I have to watch you suck when you should be good, I shouldn't have to feel bad for you. Do better. But I kind of felt bad for he was like lost on the mound. He's like, I cannot do anything right. I'm usually good at what I do, and right now, in this moment, I am at the literally bottom of the bottom, and it was something to say. And with that, I just hope he has a great life, but not with me and not with us. Get off my TV.
I will say, as somebody who obviously has a background in journalism, he was always good with the media, so shout out to him. But that's the last of the concerns.
Does that get us out? No.
He pitched 2/3 of an inning in the playoffs. He pitched one game. He pitched 2/3 of an inning. So, and that's $9 million.
Yep.
$9 million.
That's the best way to put it. The last guy we will talk about, because like I said, no reason to go into the Nick Nelsons and the Ben Hellers, because those are replaceable faces.
Nick Nelson,
when it comes down to that, is a guy who I have had a love-hate relationship with, and that is Chad Green. I am going to keep him. That's because I think he is your most consistently above mediocre relief arm, and that's really the best way to put it, because when he is on, he's good. He's not elite like Dylan Betances was, and when he's bad, he's pretty trash, but he does everything for you, and you can put him out there in any situation. And I don't think the Yankees are going to find a guy like that who is just that easily slottable for the above average production that he gives you.
Yeah, I think I have the same love-hate with him that you do. When he comes into a big game or in a big situation, I do not feel good about it. I get what you're saying, that he's been consistently their best above average reliever, not counting Chapman and Britton.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, and that does count for something. I'm not going to just poo-poo that and act like, he's terrible.
He's a poor man's David Robertson, in my opinion.
But that's they bring him in. Okay, so 2017, he was amazing, and he was that kind of guy where you can bring him in with runners on base, and he would get out of it, and it would be incredible to watch, the Houdini sort of thing. But he's not that anymore. I don't know if that was a flash in the pan or what, but basically the way I look at it is when he comes into a game in a big situation, I don't feel good about it. So this guy does have a place on the team, but it's sort of one of those situations where it's maybe his role isn't best for him. I don't know that I don't know that I want him being one of my high leverage relievers, because I know when he came into the games in the postseason, I was not feeling good about it. And, I'm looking now at his stats this postseason. Not great. I mean, he had one bad game, but it was an important game. It was Game 3 against Tampa. So just maybe it's a reshuffling of roles sort of thing. But keep him.
Yep. E-Ray?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I keep him. Now, if, next year, or I don't know what his contract is, but if he starts to show these flashes of, like Josh and you were saying, Julian, where in these high leverage situations, it's more bad than good, then next year you start to wonder, okay, do we keep this guy? But yeah, you keep him right now. I still believe him in some way when he comes into the game. It really depends how his week is going, to be honest. I guess it really depends on the week, because like you said, when he is good, he gets outs, he shuts you down. His fastball looks unhittable. But when he's bad, it looks like the hitter knew what was coming, to be honest. Yeah. And they mash him. So, but yeah, you keep him right now. He's still,
by the way,
still good enough to be in this bullpen.
To answer your question, he has 1 year left on his contract. Then he has a year of arbitration, and then he's a free agent. So he would be a free agent at age 32 in 2023. So I would say odds are these last 2 years are his Yankee years, no matter what. And then after that, I highly doubt he is on the Yankees. So the last 3 guys, I'm just rapid fire them. Tell me, take them or trash them. They are 3 fan favorites when you really think about it. Jonathan Loaisiga, take or trash?
Trash.
E-Reg? Don't give me a long-winded answer, because that sigh, I already know I'm about to get a spiel. Take or trash, bud?
I'll take.
Okay. Find out next week why E-Reg took Jonathan Loaisiga. How about Jonathan Holder? Take or trash?
Trash.
E-Reg?
I trash. He was good though. He was good in the playoffs in whatever situations.
By the way, I'm a trash on both. I don't. I'm not gonna. I need to follow my own rules and not go too in depth on this. And the last one is one that we all know and we all love, and he's been on the team despite several things over the last several years. They're not gonna trash him because they love this guy.
Because he has picks of Brian Cashman.
Luis Cessa.
I'd keep. I'm keeping him. He has a bad reputation.
You gotta tell me.
He has a bad reputation because he has pitched terribly in previous years. But honestly, when this guy came into games at the end of the season and then in the playoffs, I didn't feel that bad about it, to be honest with you. I really didn't.
No, I'm with Josh. I've hated Luis Cessa for a long time, a very long time. I wanted him gone years ago, but the last couple months in these situations, he was getting outs. And I'd rather have had him over Loaisiga in these, when every time I remember was bringing Loaisiga in these situations where Loaisiga would blow it, I was like, you know what? Luis Cessa might have actually gotten outs there. And so I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would keep Luis Cessa. Now, fast forward to game 59 or something, when Luis Cessa's 0-4 blowing another game, then we're going to go back to today when I said keep him. But for now, I think I keep him. I think the last couple months and him pitching pretty well has earned for me to keep on the train. Maybe it's the same thing as the Yankees. They can't let go. I can't let go. It's
same
like
thing with Luis Cessa.
We can't let go of Luis Cessa, man. We just can't.
He reminds me a lot of Sergio Mitre, because I feel like this dude was the absolute perfect dude for just not being anything that exciting. And he would come into games, do mop-up duty, start random games when they needed a spot starter. He would pitch long relief or short relief, and there was nothing exciting about this dude, but he still was on the team and was kind of below average for most of the stuff. With that said, I'm also a keep.
Wow.
Yeah, we swept it. Wow.
It's threes across the board. And the reason is he is so good at that mop-up, terrible, who gives a crap role. And he's a major league pitcher. And I don't know what his contract is. I really would have to look it up. The only thing I know is that he has nudes of Brian Cashman, and that's the only reason why he's on the roster seemingly still. So, you know what? Let's get weird. Let's keep him around and let's see what 2021 has in store.
Let's get his jersey. Why not?
Yeah, the Cessa bunch for Our Little Yankees Podcast.
We could be a little fan club at the stadium.
Our little Luis Cessa.
We'll be the only 3 people in the Cessa section.
Yeah, they'll probably think we're related to him or something like that, based off of that. So there it is. Those are our take and trash. We had a super, super long podcast today, so I'm not going to keep anybody who's been listening this long around any further. Next week, hopefully, we'll have some new hot stove stuff to talk about. It's already almost Thanksgiving, and the winter meetings obviously are the first week in December. Usually, I'm not sure what they're doing with COVID, so we'll have to see with that. The Mets have a new owner. Shout out to Stevie Cohen if you're a Mets fan. That should be exciting and interesting. And I guess the Yankees might be the new Wilpons now that the Steinbrenners are Stevie Cohen and the Mets. So we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. But any parting shots from you two?
Hopefully some news comes along so we could actually have some concrete to talk about. And hopefully if it is news, it's good news for the Yankees.
Yep, I agree. If no news comes along, then we'll get to talk about Nick Nelson and Luis Gil.
Nick Nelson.
And Heller.
Ben. Shout out Donnie Baseball for winning National League Manager of the Year.
Nice.
We love Donnie Baseball. And also, I won't get into politics because that's not what we do here. But now that a Democrat is back in the office, the Yankees have a better shot at winning a World Series this year.
That's
just according to statistics. Just according to right here.
What is that actual stat, by the way?
Well, now you got me
because I did see it. It's something like when the Yankees have only won a World Series the last like 3 decades when there's a Democrat in the house or something
the Yankees haven't won a World Series with a Republican in office since Dwight Eisenhower.
Wow. So they haven't won essentially a World Series with a Republican since the 50s.
Yeah, since 1958.
So,
and they at least get one. They get one when there's a Democrat, like in the 4 years that a Democrat's in office.
Well, they won.
So we got a
when
chance.
Obama was there, and then they obviously
09.
won one. They won a ton when Bill Clinton was in office.
So we got a chance. We got a chance.
So
We have a chance.
Joe Biden potentially leading the Yankees to World Series number 28. All right, folks, we will catch you next time. But for now, thanks as always for tuning in to Our Little Yankees podcast. We'll see you later.